What is up, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Somewhat Sports Podcast. My name is Chris, and I'm joined by two of the greats in this industry, Jurg and Dame. Fellas, how are we this week?
I'm happy. I'm happy. This podcast is going to become my lifeline over the next couple months, considering how work is going to be for me. But I'm going to look forward to days like this. Recording day is podcast day. Podcast day is fun day. Fun day is when I get to talk with my brothers about sports, and it's the best feeling in the world. Fellas, how are we?
Yeah, I mean, we got to switch up the rotation because I can't follow up the way Jurg introduces himself or how he's doing because I got nothing. I'm just here and I'm ready for another vacation if I got to say something.
I mean, death, taxes, Dame books another vacation for himself. You deserve it, Dame. You're a hardworking guy. Hardworking guy. We're all hardworking men. And you know what else is hardworking? The NFL season, because we got a bunch of NFL news this week. Plethora of it. And yeah, we're going to talk about it. So, surprise firing and surprise hiring from one specific team, the Indiana Colts. We also got some Josh Allen injury news and how that could affect the Bills going forward. And we're also going to talk about the Odell Beckham Jr. to the Cowboys rumor. OBJ says he should be cleared by next week. And I think it'll be up to him to make the decision where he signs. I'm assuming he has a lot of suitors. Actually, I know he has a lot of suitors, but one, the Cowboys, is starting to gain steam, and we're going to talk about, the effects of Odell signing to the Cowboys, what it could mean for them, what it could mean for him. So, all that jazz. Fellas, do you want to go straight into it?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, why not?
Okay. By the way, we're going to end. We are going to end with our Clowns and Crowns segment. That's right.
Yeah.
It's the critically acclaimed segment from all sports analysts.
It's the best segment we've ever created on the show.
Yeah, it might
Yeah,
be.
Chris, who gets props for it?
I think I do. I think I came up with it.
All right, go fuck yourself.
Someone pull up the receipts. But anyway, yeah. Guys, Frank Reich got fired from the Colts. A surprising move, to say the least. I would say what's more surprising is that they hired Jeff Saturday as his replacement. Hefe Saturday fills in for Frank Reich. So I think the Frank Reich firing was met with a lot of surprise, especially because it kind of came in the middle of the season. And I think the Jeff Saturday hiring was met with a bit of backlash, and I'm going to let you guys talk about that. But, Jerry, let me start off with you. What'd you make of the Frank Reich firing this far into the season? Because he is, honestly, I think he's a talented coach, a very talented offensive coordinator. We have no doubts that he'll find another job soon in the NFL, whether it's going to be an offensive coordinator or whether it's going to be a head coaching job. He's going to find a job pretty soon, probably in the offseason from one of these teams that will have a head coach opening. And for the Jeff Saturday hiring, a lot of people were just like, what? What are we doing here? I think he was just kind of given the job instead of, earning it. A lot of people probably thought that he didn't deserve it. I know he's liked in the organization, but it still feels like he didn't deserve that position. But yeah, Jerk, talk to me. What were your initial reactions? What do you make of this for the Colts going forward? They play the Raiders. They play the Raiders this week, and I believe he had a tweet where he said the Raiders don't look good initially when the season started. So who knows what's gonna happen? I just think it's hilarious that this came full circle in which he was kind of shitting on the Raiders, and now his first game is gonna be against the Raiders. But yeah, Jerk, what'd you make of this?
Yeah, perfect timing for him to be the head coach of the team, so that's going to work excellent. Those two sad sack teams this season duking it out in football. Is it a prime time? Okay, thank God it's not a prime time game for anything. I mean, considering the schedule makers this season would have really surprised us. They've won a clown before in our segment. So the firing itself, I wasn't necessarily shocked that he got the axe. I think we were all expecting it to happen at the very end of the season, as is notorious. The first Monday after the end of the NFL regular season is known for coaches getting fired. I honestly kind of expected him to have at least lasted that long. But when you consider the performance that the Colts had against the New England Patriots, it was just absolutely awful. This is not the Patriots team of yesteryear. This is not our father's Patriots teams. Hell, this isn't the Patriots teams that we experienced when we were in middle school, high school, and college, guys. This isn't that Patriots team anymore. And the fact that you still only put up 3 points against them. Sam Ehlinger did not look good. That offense did not look good. And this was after they fired their offensive coordinator. So you can't make the excuse anymore on the offensive coordinator. Had they maybe waited a couple more days, I think he could have kept his job and maybe just fired the OC. But nah, that wasn't going to happen. He wasn't going to survive it after firing the guy and then literally putting up only 3 points on the New England Patriots. Still suffering to this day of cutting Rodrigo Blankenship, of course. But in all seriousness, like generally speaking, Chris, I am with you. Frank Reich is a fantastic offensive coach in general. I would be highly surprised if a coach doesn't hire him to their coaching staff next year. I think he could definitely be an offensive coordinator again, if not maybe a quarterbacks coach. If no one wants to make him an OC yet, but I can imagine with his experience, I see him becoming like he's still relatively young for coaching standards, so I can see him becoming the OC of a team in the offseason, because I'm sure there's still going to be a couple jobs that open up throughout the league after the course of the season. Was I surprised that they did this now? Like I said, because of what they did against the Pats, I think it was no excuses anymore, and I think they just decided to pull the trigger and see if they could get anything. Because at the end of the day, like clearly it wasn't working anymore for him. Like you could try to say it was injuries, you could try to say it was a myriad of other factors, but at the end of the day, like the Colts offense, even when Matt Ryan was in there, it just looked bad. And when you're here's the thing, when you're supposed to be a guy who like came in being known for a thing, like that's you're held to that standard. So if you're an offensive guy coming in, if the offense is going to be bottom 5 in the league, bro, why do we bring you in? If you're going to be a defensive guy and your defense is the worst in the league, what are you doing here? You know, so when you're held to that standard, like that's a standard you're going to continue to be held to, and they just didn't meet their standards anymore. They were falling way below expectations coming into a season where a lot of people, I think us on the podcast included as a whole, probably were expecting them to take the AFC South away from the Titans, hopefully mainly because we don't like Tennessee succeeding. And Indy has failed us on all fronts in that regard. So I think just a bad season for Indy that like maybe this will be the moment that I could just end up in a tailspin and they just really bottom out. We'll wait and see. Overall, Frank Reich, I like just sometimes for even good coaches, boys, like the time comes, the clock struck midnight, and it was thank you for your service, but see you later at the end of the day, man. So that's all I could really say about that.
Yeah, I mean, the Colts are honestly a mess. 3-5. I feel like they're worse than that record, as bad as that sounds. That quarterback room has been absolute garbage all season. They thought bringing in Matt Ryan would have been an upgrade from Carson Wentz, but it really wasn't. That says a lot when you see how many people shit on Carson Wentz. I've never thought he was as bad as the media and other people put him out to be. I thought he was pretty solid from last year. It's just at the end of the day, that last game against Jacksonville to put them in the playoffs, everyone's gonna remember that as like the ending of their season, and like basically will use that for how he played throughout the year, which is unfair to him. I think he played pretty well throughout the season. I think he had like 20 touchdowns or like only 6 picks or something like that. But of course, he had so many bonehead plays that people will just put at the forefront instead of looking at the good things he did. But so they brought in Matt Ryan, thinking, former MVP, former guy who made it to the Super Bowl and stuff. Like he's gonna be an upgrade over Carson Wentz, especially with the boneheaded plays. Like Matt Ryan isn't dumb or like as I guess careless as Carson Wentz is, but he's just not as talented. And then it was a shit show with Matt Ryan. It was just all dump offs to running backs. He couldn't move it up and down the field. I guess the only highlight of the Matt Ryan Colts era would be the Chiefs win, but I think that was more of the Chiefs losing that game than it was the Colts winning. But shit show, to be honest. Like the offensive line is garbage. Jonathan Taylor's hurt. They only have one receiver, Michael Pittman. The quarterback room is done. The defense isn't the same as it used to be. Obviously, the coaching, firing, it's all just a mess. I don't know where they go from here, honestly. I don't think they're going to be bad enough to be in the top 5 to get a quarterback. I don't know what quarterback, whether it's a free agent or a trade target, would want to go to the Colts with the way they are set up now, especially with hiring Jeff Saturday as an interim coach. Like that just shows you how messed up that organization is at the top. But yeah, I'm clueless as to where the Colts are going moving forward.
Yeah, I think we're all clueless when it comes to the Colts. A team that we all had high expectations for going to the season. Like we legitimately came up with scenarios about what could happen in the playoffs, and we were like, the Colts could definitely, before the season started, the Colts can challenge the Bills in an AFC Championship game or something like that, because we didn't think Matt Ryan would be this washed, and everyone had high hopes for Jonathan Taylor. But man, oh man, we were wrong as fuck. It was ice cold take that was from all of us. I think we all agreed. That's why. So
It
yeah,
all fell apart.
all fell
It
apart.
all fell apart after that episode.
All fell apart like Jonathan Taylor fantasy owner teams. That's what happened. All right, so Dame, let me rebound off that. What do you make of the Jeff Saturday hiring?
I thought it was a joke. I don't know why they would hire him. He has no prior coaching experience or scouting experience or coordinator experience at all. They just hired a guy off ESPN. which doesn't. I don't know why. It's
Is
kind
he
of like
like a
hiring.
friend to that organ? Like he's a
He
friend
he
to
was
like the
he was
owner or
there
something?
for extremely. I assume so. He was there for a
Yeah.
really long time. He was Peyton Manning center. You know, I guess they have a good relationship, but I mean, it just doesn't look good on the league, especially with the whole rule that the NFL has with the Rooney Rule, where you have to interview a minority. I mean, I get it; it's an interim coach, but it looks like he kind of had his mind made up by hiring him. I think it's a really bad move for as a football operations move and just like an optics move. I think it's really bad.
Did you see the both of you, did you see the press conference?
Yeah.
It was
No,
one of the worst press conferences I've seen. I'm
really?
glad he has no experience. I'm like, what? What? What do you
Oh
mean?
boy!
Yeah, I'll try to link you, Dame. But yeah, Jerg.
All right.
he he hasn't been corrupted by the being a head coach and going through all this stuff. Like, if that's corruption, gladly give me that corruption, a couple $1,000,000 in my bank account, Jim Irsay. Please and thank you. First off, I must say, Dame, no need to take a shot at ESPN. The talent is amazing there.
Yeah,
You
you're
know,
right. You're right. You're
no
right,
need,
Jerg.
like, no bias at all. Just saying. Like it was so puzzling, man. Like I understand. Like the
Well,
thing
we
with the
can't, Jerg. We can't blame Jeff Saturday, right? Like he's got, you got to offer that job. You're gonna take it, right?
look, at the end of the day, if you were unqualified for a job, completely unqualified,
Yeah.
but you were offered probably at least $1.5 million or $2 million to do it for like 2-3 months, would you do it?
Without blinking.
Like I don't think anyone here is going at Jeff Saturday. Jeff Saturday, like generally speaking, like even the people that disagree with the hiring itself, everyone is resounding. Jeff Saturday is one of like the most genuine human beings in terms of like football players that have been around. Like you don't have that decade plus partnership with Peyton Manning, and like Peyton Manning, when he respects you, like that means a lot because it takes a lot to earn the sheriff's respect. So Jeff Saturday is well respected. He is well liked. There is not a single human being I think on this planet that could say a negative thing aside from maybe some defensive lineman that he probably pancaked in his career. Aside from that, I don't think anyone will say a negative thing about Jeff Saturday. But the move itself is terrible. Look, the only idea that comes to mind is kind of like how we alluded to. I think Dame, we agree, and Chris, I'm sure agrees as well. I think we can all agree that probably part of the reason was Frank Reich just lost the locker room. Like sitting Matt Ryan for the rest of the season. Not even like I know he's kind of hurt, but he didn't need to just say he was going to be out for the rest of the season. They don't go to Nick Foles for some reason, which is weird because he's on the roster. You just go straight to Sam Ellinger. Jonathan Taylor hasn't had a rushing touchdown since week 1 of the season. Michael Pittman had a bad game. Like, just nothing is clicking for this offense. It feels like just these guys, even this defense that's supposed to have talent, is not going well. Nothing is going well for this team. Nothing's going well for this organization. And it just kind of felt like he was losing the locker room. Like, the only reason I can think of is that, like, there had to have been a pulse there by Ballard and Irsay that he was losing the locker room. And in that instance, I sort of get the idea of bringing in a former player to be able to steer the ship. The problem is, and see, this is where you lose me with the former player argument, at least bring in a former player that's been a coach for a couple years in the league. And even on their roster, look, I know these aren't the best names, but somewhere on that roster on the defensive side of the ball, I think is Gus Bradley and John Fox. Look, they don't need to be permanent head coaches. They can just head coach the rest of the season. Like, we're not bringing in a miracle worker. We don't need, and Jim Irsay I think at some point said it himself, like in the league, we're not miracle workers, we're not rocket scientists or whatever the hell he said during his press conference. Like, yeah, you're not, and yet you really galaxy brained the living hell out of this situation. Irsay, you overthought this and you overshot this to the max with getting Jeff Saturday, and I just like he can connect with the players. I get he's a good personality, I guess, but just the decisions will be really interesting to see how this happens. I'm kind of with Dame. I really think they don't know what they're doing, and this is just a last ditch effort. I think it's going to bottom out. Even I don't know if you guys saw the guy that's going to be calling plays for them. And again, I hold nothing against this human being because he worked his ass off to get this position. But the guy that's going to be calling their plays for them this Sunday is 30 years old. Like they're going with the least amount of experience possible in terms of their head coaching and play calling duo. So at the end of the day, I mean, let's see. Again, nothing against Jeff Saturday uh, and them as a whole. But man, they have to figure stuff out. And look, I know he was there for now, but Chris Ballard, your job is not safe by any stretch of the imagination, my man. Like, because for all we say about Frank Reich, Chris Ballard was the one that kept playing the merry-go-round of quarterbacks. Like, let's go with Jacoby Brissett, let's go with Phillip Rivers, let's go with Carson Wentz. Just these constant one-year stopgaps. Less than a year in the case of Matt Ryan now, apparently. Like, just not good. Not good in any way, shape, or form. This organization, they need a restructuring, and Jim Irsay, like I had to say, because Chris Ballard is an amazing GM. I think he's one executive of the year, but this organization is just in a tailspin right now, and it looks like they're heading to that crash in any given moment here. So let's see how it plays out.
Well, they better start being bad ASAP because
Yeah.
if you want to get your quarterback for the future,
This is the class.
you need to be worse than the Panthers and the Texans, who I don't know, man. It's gonna be tough because like their record isn't awful. It's bad, but it's not awful.
I mean, they tied with the Texans earlier this season, so it's like
that is true.
It's not out of the realm of possibility for the Colts to maybe, like, if they go on a massive losing streak, it's not out the realm of possibility for them to probably tank this. Like,
I mean, all the makings are there for like an elite tank job,
Yeah. And if you
I don't know.
like, they didn't sell. The thing is, they didn't sell off any of their like important pieces. Like they didn't, because they obviously thought they'd be better, but they didn't sell off Shaq Leonard. They didn't sell off Buckner or Nelson or anyone. Like there are still pieces there to be a good competitive team if you get the right quarterback in there. And I mean, if you're going to get the pick, let's get the quarterback now, boys.
For sure. All right, let's move on. Josh Allen has a UCL sprain, I believe. I think he sustained the injury during the Jets game, literally at the end. So I think the official news came, this morning, right? So it's been like, 3 or 4 days since it actually happened. I was a little concerned because it took a while for this news to break. We all know there was a little bit of a problem with the elbow, but, they weren't giving us like the official diagnosis. And I'm like, oh shit, I hope it's not as bad as it seems, And UCL sprain, honestly, it's not a good injury to have, especially when, you have Josh Allen's arm and he is literally like your entire offense. Well, he's a majority of your offense. He makes everything happen. He is literally top 2 quarterback in the NFL. And it could have been a lot worse if you watched the injury in slow motion. I don't know if you guys saw it in slow motion. Dame, I'm assuming you did because you watched the Jets game, but I thought it looked a lot worse. And the fact that it's just a sprain, thankfully is just that. But obviously it's not good because it's just a throwing arm, and you don't know how this could affect him long term. Now, I think the Bills are in a peculiar spot, if I may. So they're 6-2. They're ahead of the Chiefs because they beat the Chiefs in Arrowhead. The Dolphins are 6-3. The Jets are 6-3. Who else is like top dogs in the AFC so far? Did I mention every 6-win team? I think I did. And then there's some 5-win teams right after that. Now, if I'm the Bills, I would sit Josh Allen out, at least for this week. I understand it's just a sprain. However, I know you're playing the Vikings, and the Vikings are really hot right now. So it's not the most ideal team to sit him out against. And I know the standings, it's kind of like these teams are getting close with one another, right? I would sit Josh Allen out for at least a week because I understand home field advantage is great, and you don't want to play an Arrowhead if you see the Chiefs in the playoffs. But it's not worth affecting Josh Allen in the long term, right? The Bills, like, if I'm the Bills, fuck it, bro. If I play like a road game in the AFC Championship game, screw it. I have faith in them to win. The Bills are good enough to beat elite teams on the road, right? If I'm them, I'm prioritizing Josh Allen's health 1,000%. Like, screw it. If we have to play the Chiefs in Arrowhead for the AFC Championship game, so be it. As long as I have Josh Allen 100%, I'll take that chance. Because we can beat them in Arrowhead, because we've shown in the regular season. I know about the playoffs, but this season's a different story. But yeah, I would just sit him out. It's thankfully there's no surgery required. I think 1 week off rest, it's not going to do wonders, but it's definitely a start to help him heal a little bit. I don't think it's pointless for me to rush him, right? And I know the Dolphins are right behind you. I know you're kind of neck and neck with the Chiefs. Jets, I don't think they're going to. I think the Jets are good this year, but I don't think they're going to have the sustained momentum. I don't think it's going to continue to a point where the Bills have to worry about them. So that's my thought process on this. I'm glad Josh Allen's okay. I would rest him for a bit, even if it's 2 weeks, man. Look, Case Keenum, not the most ideal quarterback, but he's not a bad backup. If you just hold the fort down. The issue is that the running game is kind of ass. So it's just, and without Josh Allen, you're gonna have to bank on your running game, which is not their strong suit. So they're kind of in a mixed spot right now. However, if I'm them, prioritizing Josh Allen's health, let's sit him out for a week or two, keep him healthy. If it sacrifices a home game in the playoffs, So be it, man. Screw it. I'll take my chances with Josh Allen in a road game if need be. So, Dame, let me start with you. So, give Jerk a rest here. What'd you make of this news? And basically, response to what I just said.
Well, when I dislocated my elbow, I tore my UCL, and that shit is painful. Let me tell you, and like the nerves around it, I like messed up too. So like, obviously, I'm not Josh Allen.
It was
Obviously,
a
we don't have the
tear,
same
Dame, or
injury.
was it a
Yeah, it's a
sprain?
full no. Mine was a full UCL tear. I tore like 2 other ligaments and like
Damn, bro, I didn't know it was that
messed my
bad.
nerves. Yeah, that's why the recovery took so long. If it was just dislocated and like I didn't mess up my muscles, I would have been fine in 3 weeks. But it was longer because like I tore stuff. But luckily it's in my left elbow, so I don't use it as much as my right one, like Josh Allen does, and obviously throws the ball 70 yards on a dot.
Yo, bro,
But
the fact that he threw that like on target 70 yards after, like he
yeah,
fucked it up, is kind of wild.
and also, I mean, you could also say you could also like speculate that maybe he just made it worse on that throw. You just never know. But regardless, like it's a tough injury, especially when you're throwing the ball. Like it's hard for me. Like I don't do much things left-handed, but if I want to throw something or do like a push-up, like it's still tough. Like it's like, you need to like stretch it out a lot. You need to move around a lot to get it like loose. But for Josh Allen, a guy that throws that hard with that much velocity, like it's gonna be tough for him. But like Chris said, I think they played the Texans this week, right?
No, the Vikings.
The Vikings. I mean, obviously a tough game that they would probably need Josh Allen to win, but I think Josh Allen's long-term health going into the playoffs with the team they have this year that's so built to win and might be the best roster from top to bottom in NFL and the favorite to win the Super Bowl. Like, you should be looking ahead instead of just looking at it week by week. They don't need this win to be a Super Bowl contender, but if Josh Allen goes in there, tries to thread the needle on a pass or tries to throw a 50 or 60-yard bomb again and kind of re-aggravates the injury or makes it worse or like pop something, like that's when the team is in trouble. They're not going to be in trouble if they just lose a game to the Vikings because they want to give Josh Allen another week of rest or rehab or whatever the case may be. Like they'll be okay with a loss, but if he hurts it even worse in this game, like then they'll be in trouble because one, he'll be out like for multiple weeks, and two, the process to get back will be even harder. And then even if he gets back before the end of the year, like
Not gonna
he's
be the
not gonna
same.
have he's not gonna have the ramp up time to get back for the playoffs. He's not gonna be the same because he's gonna rush it back to be back for the playoffs. So I think they should keep it safe, set him out a week. Obviously it would help my Jets try to secure first place.
And the
But
Dolphins.
that really has nothing to do with it. Honestly, swear on my mother's life, it has nothing to do with it. I just think the Bills should be smart about it because they have a true Super Bowl contender and it could be the favorites in the entire league. That they should look towards that instead of looking at just 1 week versus the Vikings.
Jerk, before you go, let me ask you this. Let me add this before you continue. Do you think it's insanely important, and I use insanely loosely, you could whatever you want to do with that word. How important is home field advantage for the Bills that they might look at this differently? Because playing in Buffalo is a lot different than playing anywhere else during like the heat of the playoffs because it's going to be winter and cold as fuck over there. And they're going to have advantage if they play at home the entire playoffs. So is the importance in playing in Buffalo and having that advantage during the playoffs, do you think it might be like on their minds as they're going forward with this?
How important is it for them to have home field advantage? I mean, you got to ask yourself the question: do you want to cost the next 5 years of your championship window potentially, and ruin Josh Allen now? If you want to do that, sure, play him through injury. If you want to be a smart organization and good little football boys, please do the right thing and don't like. Yes, I know the next game is against the Vikings and it can be tough. But the two games after that are the Browns and the Lions. I'm gonna be real with you, man. I would take the ultimate precaution. I would sit him all 3 games.
I'm with you on that one.
I would sit him all 3 games. I don't see any reason in the world to have to force it. Maybe this will force the running game. I mean, you just got Naheem Hines. You have
Singletary.
Singletary. Yeah, my bad. I don't know why. I thought his name was McKenzie for some reason. You have Singletary. You have Hines. You have the two of them. Case Keenum, like you said, he's not a bad backup quarterback. This guy led ironically, the Minnesota Vikings to an NFC Championship game appearance with Stephon Diggs on the team, funny enough. So, here we go. Like, the pieces are in place. That defense is good. The offensive line is solid. The pieces are in place for Buffalo. I think they are built to be able to do well and survive a 3-game absence of Josh Allen just to make sure that he is fully back on 100%. Kind of like Dane mentioned, like I feel like you can make this argument for a good number of injuries, but I feel like the elbow for an NFL starting quarterback, especially their throwing arm, it probably shouldn't be something you try to hurry back from. Just an inkling on that. Look, I know, will the offense be different? Of course. Josh Allen being out, like, it's going to force their running backs to really step up because the running game has still predominantly been Josh Allen this season. It's going to have to force receivers, aside from Stephon Diggs, to step up. Gabriel Davis has kind of been, coming and going in that offense, and not too many other guys have really stepped up. I mean, Dawson Knox has been good, of course, but nobody else has really stepped up aside from those guys. Like, if Case Keenum comes in, they need to step up. That defense, of course, the defense is good. I don't think they've lost a game because of their defense this season. I can say that much. I don't think they've lost because of their defense this season. So this will force the defense to maybe have to put in a couple extra efforts. But hey, sometimes in a season, like, this is what you have to do to survive stretches, and you just need to survive this stretch of time. I don't think home field should be of the utmost importance. How many wildcard teams have we seen make it to the Super Bowl? We've seen a couple, man. The Packers won I know I'm talking about all-time, Hall of Fame caliber quarterbacks, but the Packers made it when they won with Aaron Rodgers, they were a wild card. When the New York Giants made it, I think one of them, they were a wild card, if I'm not mistaken. Like, you don't need to be the top team in the conference to make it. You can play several rounds. Like, you can start from the wild card round and go forward, and you can make it there. So it would have been nice to get the first round bye. Yes, I understand it, but it's not worth the long-term future of your starting quarterback. It's just really not. And I think at the end of the day, you just have to make a conscious decision of Buffalo. Like, yes, we understand it. At the end of the day, it is difficult, and it sucks to have this, and it sucks to maybe lose the first seed because of it. But if this will keep him healthy for even fine, let's ignore the long term. Let's just look at this season. I don't want to lose him. I do not want to lose my franchise starting quarterback. I do not want to lose him to force him to play against the likes of the Browns and the Lions. And look, I know they've been good this season. I'm not sweating losing a regular season game against the Minnesota Vikings. I'm not. If that's going to cost my quarterback's health, hell no, I'm not doing that. So the first seed should not be the number one priority. The number one priority is maintain your quarterback's body, maintain his health as the best you can be, and rely on the rest of your team and force your team to step up. This is the moments that make champions right here. These are the kinds of stretches of games that force guys to step up, to make them play better than what they normally play, to make them realize what they can really do for this team. If you're Buffalo, you can use this opportunity to really catch fire. This is what can mold you to that true Super Bowl caliber team. Not with Josh Allen under center, funny enough, with him outside of the game, with him missing a game or two, to force these guys to step up. I think that is what is going to make this team a true title caliber team, if they can get past this stretch and still look like the great team that they are.
Yeah, I think we're all in agreement that we should just be cautious with Josh Allen. I just think the ends justify the means here. Like you said, Jer, like after the Vikings, it was Lions and Bears. Yeah, we could afford some games off. Again, it's the Bills. It's like they're that talented that if they're a wild card, I could still see them making it to the Super Bowl. But yeah, I hope we all want Josh Allen healthy in the playoffs. That's it. Okay, guys, let's move on. Odell Beckham Jr. There's smoke. There has been smoke around who's going to sign Odell Beckham Jr., who he's going to sign with since the beginning of the season, since the offseason actually. Teams have been rumored. You got the Packers, you had the Giants, the Bucks, throw them in there. I guess the Chiefs, the Bills, and now one that I think has been gaining traction, not I think, but I know, is the Dallas Cowboys. Guys, Jerry Jones is a madman. He is a money-hungry madman who owns the Dallas Cowboys, and his methods are questionable, but he sees green. He sees green first and foremost. He sees dollar signs. And Odell Beckham Jr. to the Cowboys, that's dollar sign, fellas. Now, the Cowboys are a lot better than expected ever since Dak Prescott went out after the first game. He obviously came back, but they, I think, outperformed the expectations when he was out with Cooper Kush leading the helm. So they're 6-2 right now. I think they're primed for a playoff spot, particularly in the wild card, because I think the Eagles kind of have that division locked and loaded. But because their record is so good and because they're primed for a playoff spot, look, I think we all could agree, and I even think most Cowboys fans can agree, that they still need help, especially in the wide receiver end. Now, I think their running game is fine. I think with Ezekiel Elliott, I know he's a little banged up, but they had a bye week, so maybe he's a little healthier. But they also have Tony Pollard, so I think the running game is fine. Dak, I think, getting to the groove of things. Their wide receiver position, led by CeeDee Lamb and Michael Gallup. Is he back?
Yeah, he's played.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Michael Gallup getting into the swing of things again, similar to Dak Prescott. They still need a little help on the wide receiver end. Now, the Odell Beckham Jr. smoke pulls up now. I think Ian Rappaport even tweeted it. I think fit-wise would definitely work. I think Odell Beckham Jr. would be a phenomenal fit with the Cowboys. I think CeeDee Lamb will be your wide receiver 1. And I also think, like, OBJ could even be a wide receiver 3 here. He doesn't necessarily have to be the wide receiver 2. I think the wide receiver 2 could be Gallup. And I do think it's kind of beneficial for OBJ to be wide receiver 3 because you don't know how he is. He's kind of coming off post-injury right now. Ease him into things, right? But I do think that the Cowboys could definitely use him because they're kind of lacking on the wide receiver depth. And CeeDee Lamb is obviously the solidified one. With OBJ there, you'd have a lot of variety in the wide receiver game. And I think it would be a great weapon for Dak. I think Dak would love to play with OBJ. So I think play style wise, fit wise, OBJ definitely makes sense. I think he adds a lot of versatility to that offense. I think the chemistry would be fine. From an optic standpoint, I think OBJ, he's box office, so I think he fits that kind of Cowboys mantra, right? And I think for him personally, he kind of quoted, I'm quoting him, it was like an interview, but he basically doesn't want to live the rock star life anymore. Like, he wants to find a home where he could kind of play for the next 2 or 3 years. Kind of like some stability. And I kind of feel him on that. So I think Jerry Jones is willing to bring out the brink trucks for him. And I'm not saying like OBJ is going to command crazy money, but he is going to command money. I think he's actually going to ask for a decent amount of change, right? And I think Jerry Jones is willing to, bring out the brink trucks for him, and rightfully so, because I think OBJ adds another layer to that offensive scheme. Yeah, I think it makes sense for me. And I think it would definitely help them, and especially in the playoffs. So, because you guys know, it's like the Cowboys, at the playoffs, they lost Amari Cooper, and we all agreed that was an awful move to just let him go, right? Did they trade him, or did they just let him go?
They traded him, but they traded him like too early. They traded him before like
You
the wide
trade for a
receiver
fifth
boom
rounder.
started.
Okay, yeah. So they traded Amari Cooper, and like for what? Like you should have kept Amari Cooper. I think we're all in agreement for that. So, and that left a gap in that wide receiver core, and I think OBJ could make up for it. Now, obviously, we don't know how he's going to be post injury, but I think why not? It doesn't hurt them if Jerry Jones is willing to like gas him up like this. He's probably willing to pay the big bucks. Go for it. Go for it. Jared, what do you make of OBJ to the Cowboys?
Well, just Jerry Jones like being the guy to say like it's not surprising at all when it comes to Jerry Jones and flexing and being ostentatious. Like, are we really surprised anymore?
He doesn't have a lot of years left, bro. So might as well.
He's been like this even when he did have a lot of the years left. When it comes to the actual fit itself, I think it makes sense. I think the idea with Odell, it really comes down to I think a couple of factors. One, I think he wants to put himself in a position to have a really strong end to the season like he did with the Rams last year and try to get one last decent contract in the league for himself. I think he wants to play somewhere where it's a good situation, relatively speaking. And I think if he would like to, I mean, he's won a Super Bowl now. He has his Super Bowl championship. He earned his Super Bowl ring, because he contributed to that championship team. So I'm not like
legacy solidified.
Yeah, legacy solidified. He's a good player. If he wants to potentially win another Super Bowl or two, I mean, more power to him. But if I had to guess, I think the other two things I just said are higher factors. So where can he get that? And maybe a little bit of the third one. Dallas is one of the few places that can really fit. I think you have a team that they don't know what they're doing with their running back situation right now. I was looking at some of the stats, and I remember Dame had Pollard as one of his crowns that he gave last week in terms of like what we caught up on. Tony Pollard is an amazing running back, and he should be running back one in this scheme. I don't know why it's still Ezekiel Elliott, but I think with Dak coming back and starting to get into a groove, CeeDee Lamb, like you said, Chris, is the definitive number one. Michael Gallup is still really trying to come back from injury. He has not had a strong return to the season. Really, it's been Noah Brown as the number two. There's a bit of an opportunity, and I know Odell's returning from an injury as well here. But there's a bit of an opportunity for, I'm talking about if he joins them soon, late in the season, which he kind of has to because I think the deadline is coming up where you have to sign to be eligible to play in the playoffs. Odell coming in late in the season, last couple of games, he gets his legs under him, and in the playoffs, if he could do for whether it's the Cowboys or anyone else what he did for the Rams last year, which is just be like a machine. Like he was honestly like challenging Cooper Kupp in the playoffs last year. Let's keep it real. Like
he was definitely like a help, man. Because
yeah,
you see it like his importance now with the Rams.
yeah.
Yeah.
My bad, Dame. If he was healthy the entire Super Bowl, they would have won by more than just
Yeah.
a score at the
Maybe
end.
Finals MVP, maybe Super Bowl MVP.
That's what I was going. That was what I was going for. The way he started off that Super Bowl, like he was absolutely on his way to win Super Bowl MVP.
Yeah, and what that would have even solidified him even more.
Oh,
so.
yeah. Yeah,
So, like he can still be important. I think he can still contribute in the right situation. And like I said, if you're talking about an offense that can run well because you need a running game to help support the passing game, I think Dallas has that. Granted, they need to cut one of the running backs there, but to each his own. They have a guy who, and I think Odell's presence would also help CeeDee Lamb as well. I think it would help calm CeeDee Lamb because I feel like CeeDee Lamb is kind of, I don't want to say crumbled, but he hasn't lived up to the wide receiver one expectations this year.
Is he banged up? I've heard a report that he might be like fighting through something. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Potentially,
Could be fake news.
At the end of the day, if you're number one, you're number one, and you got to fight through a couple of those.
Yeah,
and
you're right.
I think Odell's presence would help make a little bit of space for him more so than what he's had so far. Perhaps it'll give Michael Gallup a little bit more leeway in terms of coming back. And I mean, Dalton Schultz has 0 touchdowns this season, so there's that for you. The guy you franchise tagged and was part of the reason why you let go of Amari Cooper. Like I think Odell would do wonders for this team at this point. I don't see any reason to not bring him in. I think it would just be a massive boon to the offense. And he's also, I still get very annoyed that people keep trying to point to his personality and him in the locker room. He's not that guy anymore. I don't think he was ever that guy to begin with. You try having a locker room with your first couple of years, the quarterback can't throw past like 20 yards down the field anymore, and then you have to have Baker Mayfield as your quarterback who can't hit the broadside of a barn. Yeah, I would be upset too. I would propose to kicking nets as well if those are my quarterbacks for my first however many years in the league. So I think Odell has grown up a lot from what people still try to label him as, which he is not. An immature guy. I think he's more of a positive guy in the locker room. You saw how that Rams locker room embraced him. And I think like there are some stand-up guys in that locker room. So I think it would be amazing for the Cowboys to sign Odell. I think they should really push hard for it at the end of the day. And hell, like you said, Chris, I think Odell is like one of the wide receivers that he looks good in any uniform. And the star on the helmet too. And that'd be really good. Sales up the wazoo. He would
wazoo, baby.
He would earn Dallas, like whatever Dallas wants to pay him, he would earn them their money back within 3 weeks just with his jersey sales alone. Like, come on now, Jerry Jones, make it happen.
Me and Dame have a couple of friends that are Cowboys fans that have already like been planning in the jersey cop.
I might get not a jersey. I might get the Cowboys jersey of Odell if they get it. That I feel like it would look sleek.
Sleek, yeah, that's a good word. That's a good word. Yeah,
honestly, depends what number he gets because there's some ugly numbers he could get.
That's true.
What if he gets 3?
Oh, that's
I don't think he can. That's
why
the thing.
someone got it or it's retired.
I think so.
Whatever.
It's something like Gallo showing me the numbers that he could get, and it's like really bad. But Odell Cowboys as a marketing move, it's great. Obviously, star power, Odell Beckham, the star in the helmet, all that. But I think for the estimated contract that he wants to get, I think it's a very risky move. Like I think around the estimate is like 3 for 45, something like that. I think it's a very risky move for any team, honestly, with a guy who just can't stay healthy and hasn't played a full season. But for a team like the Cowboys, that's just every single year, just not like they're just not getting it done in the postseason. They need to add some kind of star power and potential. So I do get it on the Cowboys end. If you're putting out a wide receiver core of CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup, and you have Odell Beckham running in the slot in the middle of the field, the way he was doing it for the Rams last year in the postseason at the end of the year, I think that's great. I think he would do wonders for that team as long as he stays healthy, and that's the biggest thing. Because if they do sign to his contract, Odell already came out and said like he wants guaranteed money, guaranteed years because he wants to buy a home somewhere. He doesn't want to be living from 2 suitcases and stuff. So if he does get hurt, which is very likely with all the injuries he's had from the ankle, foot, 2 torn ACLs, I believe, like he's had a lot to deal with. And granted, he's worked his way back. He didn't give up. Like that's all props to him. He's an extremely hard worker that's never going to give up. But if he gets hurt, you're kind of stuck with that contract, and you have to pay CeeDee Lamb soon. You just paid Michael Gallup. You obviously have Dak on a massive contract. Michael Parsons in 2-3 years is going to come up. He's going to be the highest paid defensive player ever. Like, you have to look at these kind of things if you want to lock up Odell for the next 3 years. But if I'm the Cowboys, I'm Jerry Jones. If it was just me, I am making the move. It's just worth the risk with the way the Cowboys are set up. Like, they're America's team. They're the most famous football team in the NFL. They make so much money, like Jerk said, in the first 3 games. They'll make all the money back, honestly, throughout the entire contract of that he's going to sign, of just jersey sales and merchandise sales and ticket sales of just coming to watch and play and all that kind of stuff. And obviously the on-field potential is incredible. Imagine putting out an offensive Dak, Zeke, Pollard. Zeke and Pollard as a duo, I think, is great. Obviously, I'm not a big fan of Zeke. I've shat on him in the past. He's just slow and fat. But I mean, putting him and Pollard together, I think, is a very dynamic duo. You have Zeke as your kind of in between tackles guy, goal line guy. They could give the ball within 5 yards, you'll get a touchdown. And Pollard's your big home run hitter. You get it to him on the outside and makes things happen. But putting those two together, CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup, Odell Beckham, Dak, and that offensive line, I think, would be one hell of an offense moving forward, and some team that no NFC team will want to face. And the way the NFC is set up, like, it's wide open. Anybody can win. So really, you see a lot of NFC teams in on Odell, from the Packers to the Cowboys to the Rams, because they know the NFC is wide open. And a guy like Odell Beckham, as long as he's healthy, he will be a difference maker, and he could be the guy that takes your team over the top of the NFC. So from the Cowboys, absolutely do it, but there's a lot of risk involved in signing Odell.
Okay, yeah, I think we're all in agreement that the NFC is open. So yeah, this is a move that the Cowboys should definitely make. Okay, final segment of the week: clowns and crowns. Fellas, do you want to start off with losers or winners? And by losers, I mean clowns.
Either one.
Okay, let's start off with losers.
That's what I was going to say. Nice.
Yeah, it's in the names. It's clowns and crowns, so we can start with the clowns.
Yeah. So my clown of the week goes to Sean McVay and the Rams for the way they ended that game. It was an absolute winnable game. They were about to win it, and all they had to do, was get that first down. But I guess that big brain strategy of McVay decided to give the ball back to Tom Brady for a minute left, and he found out real quick. He fucked around and found out real quick, and it was a winnable game. The Bucs offense was non-existent. They had to win that game because now they're 3-6, 5. I think they're 3-5 right now. Could someone fact check that for me? But it was obviously a must-win game for them. Now Matthew Stafford's in concussion protocol. We don't know what's going to be the situation for Sunday's game with him. So they're kind of a mess right now. I think if they lose, especially the way the Seahawks are performing in the NFC West, this is just a dire situation to be in, and they just choked that game against the Bucs. McVay got a little too pretentious, and the big brain energy got ahead of him. So yeah, my clown of the week goes to McVay and the Rams, just in general, because this is just a bad loss. Jerg, your clown?
Man, I have so many options here. Give me the Indianapolis Colts.
Nice.
Like, firing your offensive coordinator and then coming out with that performance. I know I made reference to it because we started the show talking with about the Colts with Frank Reich in that situation. Like, if we just really do a little bit of a dive, notice how I say a little bit of a dive. We don't need to go that much further. Sam Ellinger, however the hell you say his name, he doesn't deserve me to say his name properly after that. He only threw for 103 yards. And if you take away the yards he got sacked for, he only technically threw for 43 yards as a net positive. They only had 79 total rushing yards. And their leading receiver in terms of yardage was 23 yards by Alec Pierce, who only had 1 catch. That's just terrible, bro. Like, the Colts are my clown. You fire your OC and you do that, terrible.
Yeah, you kind of stole mine there, but my second option, I'm going to go with the Panthers QB room as a whole. Starting PJ Walker in the first half was god-awful. I mean, I think they didn't score a point. I mean, the offense was awful. I can't remember the exact yardage, but there was no way they had over
9 yards.
Yeah, something like I said, I didn't remember the exact number, but it was literally something like that. Like, it was embarrassing. And then obviously when your quarterback does something like that and he's not your franchise quarterback or not a guy you see going forward, you go to make a change at halftime, right? But the Panthers have Baker Mayfield as a backup, so you're really not doing much. They scored 21 garbage time points, but I mean, he only had 155 yards in garbage time when the Bengals were already up 35 nothing. They didn't really care. So my clown of the week is the Panthers QB room for literally just being the worst, possibly the worst 3 QBs in the league with him, Darnold, and Walker.
Okay. That's a good choice. All right, crowns of the week. My crown, easy, goes to the New York Jets for upsetting the Buffalo Bills, legitimately beating them. Zach Wilson outplayed Josh Allen. This was before the injury, guys. He outplayed him, and I think no one saw this outcome happening. Besides, I don't know their name on Twitter, but they have gotten every Jets result correct so far. It was like the coin flip predictions. They've gotten everything right so far, this being one of them, and they're like 9-0 so far in predictions with the Jets record. Shout out to them. But yeah, the Jets, this was a huge win, especially coming off that stinker against the Patriots. But look, they're 6-3. Guys, they're right now they're in the playoff picture, and I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. They did surpass the 5.5 win prediction, I believe, and we all had the Jets winning more than 5 games, and especially after the slow start because there was no Zach Wilson. This is best outcome you could ask for going into a bye week. So Jets, huge W, huge momentum, huge rebound game for Zach Wilson coming off that garbage game against the Patriots. Beating the Bills? Come on now. We still have a shot to take the AFC East? I would have thought you were on drugs if you told me that before the season started. Dame, your crown of the week, buddy.
Well, I was gonna go with Robert Saleh, but you went with the Jets thing, so I'm gonna go with pretty much the obvious one. Or the best player of the week is Joe Mixon.
Oh my God.
153 rushing yards, 58 receiving yards, 4 rushing touchdowns, 1 receiving touchdown. God bless me for the one time he blessed me in fantasy of not playing Joe Mixon in any possible league. Because this guy had 55 points. And for you guys that don't understand fantasy, like how fantasy scoring works, that was the 5th most ever scored by any player in fantasy history. I can't even name in the top 4, but regardless, 5th most ever in fantasy history. And the fact that this team was winning 35 nothing and they still were giving him the ball to score touchdowns, clearly he was just running it up and just making a joke out of the Panthers. Well, it kind of makes sense to have Panthers as my clowns, but yeah, Joe Mixon went crazy. He's been very inefficient this year, but I mean, this was by far his best game of his career.
Yeah. A corresponding clown and crown right there. I don't know how often that's happened yet. That's absolutely amazing pick. Yeah, Joe Mixon was a beast. Had the Commanders won, I definitely would have given my crown to the referee from that game, who accidentally got involved in that play there. That was just funny to me. It was amazing. It wouldn't have been a clown. That would have been a crown moment for you, for me. But I got to give my crown to a guy who suffered a lot, and he had just a breakout game. Justin Fields, 3 touchdowns through the air, 178 yards rushing, and a TD. 4 total TDs for him. This is the kind of play style we've been waiting for with the Chicago Bears. The problem with the Bears up to this point, and I will give Eberflus and them the rest of the season to see if they will continue this as a trend more so, is that they were trying to use Fields as the traditional drop back 5-3-5-7 step quarterback, West Coast, whatever, instead of using him for his talent. He can make plays with his legs, and that'll make him a bit better in the air. It wasn't spectacular passing numbers, that in part because I think just the Bears offense, there are 0 vertical threats on that team. I think any of us could try to become a vertical wide receiver there, and we would probably have a fair shot. But still, a good completion percentage. He got over 50% there, which I think for right now you'll take, considering what the Bears offense typically is. Like I said, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, amazing rushing game. I believe broke the record for most yards in a single game for rushing for a quarterback. Bye Michael Vick's record. Hello, Justin Fields. Outstanding. I hope this is the start of just good play for him. I'm not expecting this to be a start for good play for the Bears overall because, but for Justin Fields at least, if they can prove that they know how to use him now, this could be the start of something where we could actually see that he looks like a quarterback that really does belong in this league. And I'm confident. I'm very hopeful for that young man because he definitely deserves it. So my crown, Justin Fields. I know they lost, but what a game, young fella. What a game.
Yeah, what a game indeed. This is coming off like a few weeks ago where everyone was like, yo, Justin Fields sucks and all that stuff. And now,
Hey,
I don't think
by
he
himself,
sucks.
Nah,
he matched up. By
no,
himself,
he's
he
a
matched
he's
up
an
against the
insane
offense
rusher,
with Tyreek
but
and Jalen Waddle.
yeah, listen, he's an insane rusher, but he's a very raw passer. Like he has a lot of work to do.
But he's got no one to pass to.
All right,
He does.
whatever.
He does.
He's beat every rookie quarterback in that class besides Zach Wilson,
Which is kind of funny.
and he
Well, they
plays Zach
play
Wilson.
later in the
He
season.
play,
Well,
yeah, and he's gonna get smacked up.
well, that's the thing. Like, does he look like the best quarterback in that draft so far?
I mean,
Who?
so
Recency bias aside,
so
Justin Fields.
Fields, Lance,
No,
Wilson, Lawrence, McCorkle, Jones.
I'm
Lawrence.
not putting Jones in there.
We have to. He was
Lawrence
in
is
that draft.
Well, no. I know we have to, but like, I don't think he's the best quarterback.
No, I'm just saying. Like,
Oh yeah,
I
yeah.
think
We'll put,
Lawrence has been.
I need to see some stats, bro.
I don't know.
The analytics, man. They've all been dicks so far, but
Look, I know winning is not a quarterback stat, but Jesus Christ, none of them are winning. And like Chris said, like I'll put Mac Jones at my 5. I'll still take Trey Lance above him. I do not care.
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Like,
same.
I know Jones. Come on, bro. Like,
Listen,
QB
Mac
wins, I
Jones
know-
isn't even the best player on his quarterback on his team. It's Zappy.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I'm saying I'm putting Mac Jones at 5
Yeah.
if I have to rank those 5.
Yeah, put Davis Mills over Mac Jones too, bro.
That's
Sure.
a good. That's a
Hey,
good
hey,
argument.
look,
Davis
sure.
Mills has showed me some decent stuff.
You know what? Davis Mills at 5, Mac Jones at 6. We agree.
Probably find other quarterbacks too.
I will say this though, I did expect more from Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah.
But
We're in year
he's
two.
but first year, like I see this as his rookie year, honestly, because
Agreed.
the first year with Urban
why
Meyer's
we
a
can't
mess.
lower goalposts, bro? Look what Zach Wilson had in the first year. Look what
No,
Justin Fields had.
No, but this isn't lowering goal. Like, here's the thing. What a way to extend the pod. The standard that Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert and guys like that have set the last couple of years, it's not realistic. This is more the traditional. This is your early 2010s and the entirety of the late 90s and 2000s quarterbacks where they would come in and they would struggle their rookie season. I'm not going to go with Aaron Rodgers because that's a very different case. Carson Palmer sat his entire rookie season behind, I think it was John Kitna before he started playing. Mark Sanchez had, I know he's not the best quarterback, but number 5 overall pick, 12 touchdowns, 20 interceptions. Eli Manning sat almost the entirety of his rookie season behind Kurt Warner. Phillip Rivers and Big Ben, I don't think the both of them were starters right away. And I know I'm not comparing these guys to Hall of Famers and saying they'll be that. This is normally how it goes. It is very rare for guys to come out like Burrow, like Herbert to do this. Like even Jalen Hurts, like he sat nearly his entire first full season in the league, and he wasn't even that impressive last year. Like I know it's not been great for these guys, but we can't, like, I don't think we're lowering goalposts, Chris. I think we're setting the standard back to what it was for the longest time. I think Burrow and Herbert were aberrations compared to this. They did not set a new standard. They broke the trend. They were blipped on the radar.
No, I think Dame was lowering goalposts for Trevor Lawrence. That's what I meant. Not for the entire QBs.
Chris, if I made you work with Urban Meyer for a year, I think you would want a year of your life back.
I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt because I also am a believer in Lawrence, and look, I had him before. Like I was like, I think he's gonna be better than Burrow, but I mean, look, I know he hasn't been put in the most ideal situation, but I mean, look, this year he had a lot more weapons to play with, and actually he's gonna have even more weapons to play with. Look, screw it, like. I do agree with you, Jerk, that like I think a lot of people are putting too much pressure on these young QBs and they haven't been panning out as well. But again, they start off with ass organizations besides Mac Jones, right?
Yeah.
Trey Lance had to sit out for 1 year, and he's going to sit out this year, obviously, due to injury. So jury's still out on him. Zach Wilson being put in ass position. Same with Trevor Lawrence. Same with Justin Fields. I do think we should like calm down a little bit. Do I think Trevor Lawrence gets a little bit of leeway? Yeah. Has he earned it? Maybe. But look, I think time will tell. I think it is too early to write off some of these QBs, though. But they do. I would like to see some progress going forward now. And I think that's the expectation for all of them. Everyone wants to see them progress. But
that's fair. But that's why I love what the Lions are doing. They're building up the rest
of
their
team the Lions,
before getting their quarterback. Like for the last 2 draft class of rookie QBs, and I know this one's a little bit different because only one quarterback was taken in the first round, but bear with me here. Like, how many of them are going to set situations where, and forget the defense, from their running back to their skill position group to their offensive line, is it all stacked? Because even if you look at the late round quarterback, like even look at this year for Kenny Pickett in Pittsburgh, like the running back is shot. Najee Harris does not look the same. That offensive line is terrible. The 3 of us might as well be backups on that team, and we could maybe challenge for starting spots. And the skill position group, he had to deal with Chase Claypool for the first like half of his first season of his career. Like, come on now. And then you look at Malik Willis and Desmond Ridder. Like Malik Willis only has Derrick Henry and what? There's nothing else there. Desmond Ridder is the backup behind Marcus Mariota, and then you go back the year before, these guys go into situations where it was Zach Wilson, a rookie head coach, and Robert Saleh. He didn't have the pulse of this locker room yet. Trevor Lawrence went to Urban Meyer. God bless his soul. I hope he gets therapy for it all those years later. And Mac Jones, forget him. Bailey Zappi's better. And Justin Fields, I mean, he's dealt with Matt Nagy. Come on now. And then the last one, Trey Lance. Trey Lance, this might actually be the best thing possible because him just getting another full offseason to learn the playbook might actually be the best thing for him because it didn't look like he had a full grasp of it yet. The injury might be a blessing in disguise for San Fran for the Trey Lance stuff. I think he should be learning the playbook now.
Yeah, but also we want him to get better, get fully rehab.
Yeah.
All right, that'll do it for this week. What an episode. What a discussion amongst all topics. Jerk, where can they find us on the socials?
Yeah, for more last-minute discussions, you got to listen to this podcast, ladies and gentlemen. And for more updates on when this podcast episode's posted, you got to go to somewhat.sports on that. You get a number of things. You'll get our recaps of Crowns and Clowns. We like to wait at least 4 weeks of Clowns and Crowns before putting up the update. So this was the first one of a new cycle, so you'll get the next post for that in a couple weeks. We post our weekly NFL predictions, which it's absolutely insane to say the least. It normally gets decided only by a handful of games. We'll see if that trend continues this season. And there might be more gambling picks coming back to the pod really soon here, and some polls as well, especially come playoff season for all the sports guys. Do not fret about that. There will be playoff polls in the IG story. For that, somewhat.sports on Instagram. We're over 100 followers. Thank you so much. Let's keep climbing. Let's get to 110. Let's get to 120, and let's go even beyond that. And when you get your post, and when you get those posts, when you see in the story that we posted, you got to go to Somewhat Space and Sports on Spotify and YouTube to listen to the show. The fun talk we have on football, the basketball analysis that sometimes ends in us just mocking and obliterating the Nets for usually due cause, but maybe sometimes a stray shot here and there. The baseball talk that we'll get into with the offseason coming, because this could be one of the biggest off seasons in recent memory, especially because two guys actually in particular are free agents. And of course, I like to bring the hockey here and there. You get all of that on the best sports podcast out there, Somewhat Space and Sports. Join the wave, baby. It'll be past our 2-year anniversary by the time you guys probably listen to this episode. Enjoy it. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us on this journey so far. Let's keep it rolling. Somewhat Sports Nation, let's ride.
I want to run through a brick wall. Beautifully said as always, Jerg. Can never top that. The GOAT. All right, Jerg and Dame, once again, thank you. Awesome job, as always. To all the listeners listening, if you made it this far, we appreciate you. And until next time, peace.